You're listening to the Flashbang Gaming Podcast.
It's St. Pepsi, bitch.
Hello everybody, you're listening to episode 6 of the Flashbang Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm joined here today with the one and only Edwards. Say hi.
I'm still here, don't know why.
Still,
I'm being made to be here by Joe, obviously.
do you just not have a better intro than that?
No, I'm not funny, of course I don't.
Okay.
But we do have someone else here with us today.
Yes, we have a very, very special guest on our podcast this evening, all the way from America. Jordan, say hi.
Hey.
Yay!
Hey.
He's from a podcast called Have At You. Do you want to give people a little information about what your podcast contains and what it's about?
Yes, we are just kind of like a general gaming podcast. It's the Have At You podcast. We also do Drop Rate, which is our YouTube channel. That's droprate.life. And we just kind of cover everything else like through the industry, and everyone seems to have their own specific game that we all cover. And for me, that's ARMS.
That sounds pretty cool.
Sounds pretty good. Jordan, I must say, it's a pleasure to have you on podcast this episode. You're actually our first proper guest, really, on this podcast.
Yeah, like we had someone else on before, but that's just because we know him in real life. You're our first actual, guest.
Actual guest that we just come out of the blue, really.
Yeah.
You just come out of nowhere, it's like, yeah, I
You should feel the privilege.
No, I'm super excited to be here today.
Okay, now usually we normally have a few segments of this podcast. It's just low IQ gamers and obviously the gaming review, but we're not going to have that today because obviously where the hell is this guest going to fit in? No idea, so we're going to drop them for this episode. We're just going to do the round table. But I think before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you first, because you've got a bit of an interesting background, I heard.
Yes. Because the topic today is going to go into somewhat of esports, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's correct. Yeah.
So I was part of the Reddit tribes community back in the day when Tribes Ascend came out. So this was 2012.
Okay.
All right.
And I kind of lucked my way into starting a Tribes Ascend team. We were called Puppy Kisses, which was this horrible name that we thought up of.
Puppy Kisses,
That's a great name. Oh my god, that's awesome. That's such a good name.
And just because Reddit has so many people, just different backgrounds, for tribes, somehow we managed to get a team together that we blasted through. They had their New Bloods tournament, which was just kind of entry level teams, and we worked our way all the way up to actually being part of an invitational.
That's super cool.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it makes me sad to today because that is still one of my favorite games of all time, and I don't know if you're really familiar with High Res, but they killed tribes to pretty much support and promote Smite.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
So, how long ago was this then?
It was fall of 2012 into spring of 2013.
Oh, okay.
Well, and they just completely dropped the game.
Well, they just started. They just stopped patching it and kind of stopped supporting it, and then Smite really grew in popularity at that time, so it just kind of fell to the wayside somewhere around there.
It's always sad when a game that you love suddenly just gets support stopped for it. It's a really bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I just hope that, because there's rumors that they're going to bring it back, and if that is the same thing, the original people of Puppy Kisses, we want to reform, because the team actually
that's cool.
They lasted for around 3 years after I left, so there was still a community, but just the money wasn't there. That's the huge part of it. What we were chasing is the actual money.
So if the game actually gets basically, if they actually start supporting the game again, would you really reconsider joining the Puppy Kisses?
I mean, I would go back and probably do some at least try to maybe do because there was talk about doing a welcome back tournament basically.
Okay.
I'd be down for that, but it's just kind of the puppy, like the reason why I left Puppy Kisses at that time was right at the tail end of Tribes as well. There was, are you familiar with the game at all?
No, we're not really that familiar
Not
with it.
particularly, no.
Well, it's Capture the Flag, but with Tribes, like, you're going, like, super, super fast, like, insanely fast, and, like, it's pretty much like skiing, so you're, like, ramping off mountains, and plus it's, like, a first-person shooter.
That actually sounds really awesome.
Yeah, so I played...
I may actually start looking into this game, to be honest.
Yeah,
How
I
do
mean, it's
not
still
know
up,
about it?
and people still do play, but I played the Heavy on Flag, which is, I guess, equivalent to, like, a goalie. And part of the meta was dropping like these mines that the cappers, like the people that would come in to cap the flag, there was like glitch spots, and other teams started doing it, and I was pretty much like, I'm not going to do that, and like 3 of us left, so, and that was kind of like the downfall of that part. But then Tribes died like a month later.
Well, that's a bit unfortunate, really.
Yep.
But at least you were sportsman enough to not, like, abuse the game to try and win the money. At least you were trying to do it fairly and not trying to abuse the system.
A lot of it, too, was I just didn't want to fall into relying on something like that when that would get corrected, because then I feel like you always have to be on top of, like, what the meta is.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But yeah, it was a fun experience. Like, we did the NASL tournament. Like, I can still find VODs of it online too. It's weird. We ended up, like, once we got to like the pro, because it was like the top 32 within the invitational. Like, we pretty much got annihilated from the start, but it was still enough to like. It got our name out there. So.
That's still very successful to get to top 32 in a pro tournament. That's pretty good.
How popular was this sort of tournament in comparison to maybe like esports tournaments today?
Well, it shouldn't have been that popular, but a StarCraft 2 tournament ended at the exact same time that this tournament started, which, since we're like the 32, like the seed team, we had to go up against, like, I think it was like 16th at that time, and it switched over to the front page of Twitch. So it was like, I'm used to having like a few thousand people, and it was like 60,000 people watching, and I was just like shaking at that point.
60,000 people.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure. I can I can definitely see why you felt a bit shaken up by suddenly, a couple thousand people watching. Oh, it's 65,000.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know if I would have ever been able to take on that amount, but Jordan, only you can.
I mean, it's still funny if you look back and see the bracket, because it's like Cloud9 and Area 51, and then Puppy Kisses.
God, they are big name teams nowadays, like in games like League of Legends and CS:GO. So.
Yep.
But then again, League of Legends have really taken over the esports Twitch scene.
Dude, like EULCS today, on the day of recording, they had about 100k viewers watching that. That's just Twitch alone. That's incredible amounts of numbers just for people watching a video game, basically.
So I'm presuming this game he was playing was basically before League of Legends literally blew up.
It was like, it was before Counter-Strike blew up. Like, I don't know, because I played a lot of like CS:GO around the time when it was like maybe 10 to 30,000 people like on at all times.
Oh yeah. So basically when it was still new.
If you're playing that competitively in 2012, I think that's when CS:GO first dropped. So
yeah, and then like I remember like some of us went to CS:GO just trying to be like, like maybe we'll start something here, and then we kind of just like fizzled out, and then I think it was like a month or two later, all of a sudden it was like 300,000 concurrent users on. I think it was like right around the time that they offered that that first token. I don't remember the exact token, but they had that new map pool, and then the very first token you could get.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had the urge to really return. There was talks about Overwatch, like we were getting kind of into Overwatch, but
that would be fun.
Yeah,
but it depends on if the team's not all down to do it, then there's no point just half-assing it and going in.
Yeah, and like Overwatch is nice because it's slower. So like now that I am 30 now. The options aren't there for me for a lot of stuff because I don't have that reflexes I used to have.
I can definitely understand your point.
But yeah, I don't know. That kind of just sums up with my experience in esports. But
well, that was Jordan's adventure in esports, everyone.
Very, very interesting story. Actually, I really want to look at that game now.
It actually sounds super fun.
Super fun.
Even if the game's kind of dead, I may give it a try.
Yeah, there's some people are actually doing a Kickstarter the Kickstarter was successful, but there's a game called Midair, which they're trying to pick up the slack. But
okay.
Yeah, I would
nice.
definitely recommend just checking out Tribes, just because it's like no other game out there, and that's why it's always so fun to me.
Well, that sounds good. I'll definitely check that out at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds real good.
Yeah. It's good. Anyway, now we're done with that, let's actually get into the big debate surrounding esports now. And that involves jumping into, of course, the roundtable.
Come take a seat at the roundtable where we debate the biggest gaming topics. Only on Flashbang Gaming Podcast.
Alright, welcome to the roundtable. Our first topic is obviously about esports. What topic is that, Joe?
Okay, so our first topic is, should pro gamers in esports be classed as athletes? I'm going to go to Jordan on this one first, because obviously he has quite a bit of experience. Jordan, what do you think? Should they be classed as athletes?
It puts me in a weird spot because if they consider poker to be like a sport, that I don't know if they would consider them athletes, but it seems like it's like towing that same line where, like, I guess billiards as well.
Yeah, because like I consider games like billiards, as you said, and like poker to be like games you play in like a bar or a pub. Like, I don't really.
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
Because poker, that gets like nationwide play on like TV channels, like ESPN and stuff like that. It's like incredible how much coverage stuff like that goes, where you could literally just go down to your local bar and whip out a game of poker. Like,
yeah, but I mean, like, also to be like put in defense, to be like, oh, maybe we could consider them athletes. Like, it does take a toll. Like, especially when we did Tribes, like that was, I was working full time, but it would still be like 6 to 7 hours after work that you'd be.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this: was you ever like sort of referred to as some like pro athlete or something when you was in the esports competition?
No, but I also do know that like the esports has evolved since 2012 to where it is now.
Oh yeah, absolutely, massively.
Yeah, because now in esports there's like isn't there like drug testing that goes down to make sure that people aren't using stuff to improve their reactions and stuff like that.
It's a very, very similar setup to like sports competitions now.
So there are definitely similarities to sports with esports, but I don't know as if they should be classed as professional athletes, because they have different regimens to what an actual athlete would go through, and I don't know if that would class them as an athlete, because yes, they do spend about 10 hours training, but it's not physical training, it's more mental preparedness. It's not anything physical that would like improve their muscle mass, for example, to help them get an edge in a race, for example.
Well, if you look at the definition of an athlete, the definition of an athlete is a person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. So easily, by that definition, these pro gamers would not be classed as athletes because, well, they're not getting exercise.
I mean, yeah, their fingers might be getting a six-pack, but they sure aren't. So
that's a good one. But, I mean, you have to look at it like this. The only way you really start classing them as athletes if esports was more classed as a real sport. But would you consider esports to be classed as a real sport, Jordan?
Oh, again, it's like such weird territory for me, because I don't, in a lot of ways, like, I would consider it, and it, like, I don't know how it is as far as like where you are, but like within the US, it's ESPN is like starting to like show Heroes of the Storm and things like that.
Wasn't Rocket League shown on NBC recently?
Yes, that as well. And like we even have some H1Z1 gets covered as well from like the CW for us.
Really?
Yes. So it's like it's picking up, but it's,
Oh yeah, I've heard about the H1C1 thing.
Yeah, but I just, part of me like I'm still, you know, like I'm in that time frame when like esports was kind of dumb, but now where it's getting to, it's people are losing their like gamer tag and going more by their name, and they actually have like real representation. So I just don't know like what you would consider like within that spectrum, but I think that like ESPN and TBS and things like that, they should air them, I guess technically under sports, because it's somewhere within that same thing again where you're going at like poker and billiards, and even like we have spelling bees on ESPN. So
Oh yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I think if they weren't going to class esports as a real sport, they would possibly make a channel dedicated to esports, like maybe like ESPN Esports or NBC Esports or something like that. I think because they're showing it on actual sports channels, it's kind of getting to the point where, yes, this is real sport. They may not be athletes, but this is competition, because in the definition of sport is something that has an aspect of competition, and obviously competitive video games have competition.
Well, it's a little bit like more of a team-based, like cooperative sort of games that you sort of playing. Like you have to, it's a bit like football. You have to be making decisions on the go. So in that sort of respect, you could say, well, this is sort of more like a sports-like genre, if that makes any sense. But on the other hand, again, where's the physicality in it? I mean, we're also seeing a lot of esports competitions now, like taking place in actual stadiums as well, like real live sports stadiums, especially the League of Legends one, as we've mentioned before.
Yeah, like the finals of the World Championships of League of Legends in 2014, that took place in, I think, a Korean football stadium in South Korea.
Yeah, and they had like, I think, tens of thousands of people just filling the stadium.
Yeah, they sold that place out. It was ridiculous.
wow.
And that was it. That was 2014. Like, esports wasn't even that huge, really, in 2014. Like, it still had a viewer base, but it wasn't, like, to the size that it is now.
Well, the thing is, though, when they started doing the whole esports thing for League of Legends, when they live stream it on Twitch, there'll only be like a couple hundred people viewing it. Now, on the other hand, obviously,
it's a few thousand.
in fact, near the
It's
finals,
like tens of thousands.
No. It's even bigger than that. I think at some point you can have easily 500,000 people watching it.
Well, it depends on how big the game is, really.
Yeah, but you can kind of really see how it's grown over time, and people are taking it more like a sport, though. But would it be more of a sport for the future? That's the big question.
What really kind of like solidified it and made me realize like that esports are here is that there's a lot of American football teams that are actually picking up Overwatch and League of Legends teams right now.
Really?
Well, there's a German football or soccer team to you, that Schalke, who bought out an esports team, and they now play in the EULCS under the football team name, using their logos and uniforms.
That's crazy.
So it is starting to get picked up by sports teams. You're correct.
But I think if we get back to the question now, should pro gamers in esports therefore be classed as athletes? I wouldn't really go as far as that.
It's a really tricky question, because on one hand, they do put in the time and effort to put in, so they can put in a good performance when it counts. But they're not... I don't want to call them athletes, because to me an athlete is someone who puts in lots of physical work, not just mental work.
And the thing is, the way I see an
gamer
athlete
does.
as well is that an athlete is like someone that you actually sort of more look up to as well.
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't really find myself looking. I don't find myself looking up to like Double Lift playing League of Legends and being like, wow, I want to be like him. Because
Some people do, trust me.
Well,
obviously more the younger generation, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, let me throw this combo breaker into this. What about like
Go for it.
arms? Because arms, there's people that use like the physical, the controllers. Like you can throw the Joy-Cons like as real punches. What does that do then?
You've made a really, really good point there.
That's a spanner in the works. Ooh.
Like I'm not the most physical person, but like the very first day after I played arms, like my arms were dead the next day.
So it's almost like you're doing it for real, but you're not.
Yeah, and it's like the first time I've ever played motion controls that worked, because I usually hate motion controls and they've never felt good.
Oh, trust me, don't get us started on motion controllers. But I'll definitely see your point there. Anyway, Evan, what was you going to say? I think you was going to say something.
I was just kind of trying to fathom the span of a Jordan threw into the works of ARMS. I don't know what to say really. I'm at a real crossroads as to whether my point still stands or not. Where pro gamers aren't athletes.
It's getting a lot more physical, mate. A few years down the road, mate, they'll have to do a 100-meter sprint towards the computer before they start loading up that League of Legends game.
Oh, dude, they're too overweight to do that.
So no, maybe Jordan can give us an insight. Are they all overweight?
Is who overweight? I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I was just making a joke on how all gamers are fat. It wasn't funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah, I'll
funny.
touch on that. Anyway, let's get back to the what was meant to be discussing. The motion control thing, though. Again,
I don't really see them making a competitive scene for games with motion controls, honestly, because I feel there's too much that can go wrong.
Well, I would agree with that, but then like looking at the most recent like ARMS tournament, because I was under the assumption like I wanted to play ARMS. Like I'm a huge Nintendo Switch fanboy at this point. Like I love my Switch, and I had no. I was like, this game isn't going to do anything, and like it's getting huge traffic, and like it's kind of split right now. Half use motion controls, half use standard controllers. We're in a weird spot, but yeah, like ARMS is the first game, as I said before, that I've ever had motion controls that felt right. So, I mean, I still wouldn't probably consider them athletes, but that's just something that I thought was bordering maybe that line a little bit more.
yeah, you've definitely added something to the conversation that probably has not been discussed yet. But I think I just need to make this point quickly as well, that if it is getting a bit more physical, you wouldn't really call them more athletes, but you call them more. What's that word I'm thinking of?
I can't tell you because I don't know. I can't read your mind, bro.
Yeah, I was going to say something, but I can't actually think of that word now. Anyway, I think we should move on a little bit from that. Anything else you want to add in there before we may move on to the next topic?
Nothing on my end, other than like maybe this whole like conversation can look weird in like 5 years if VR still takes off and you see like those weird they're almost like treadmills, but they're not. Like you wear the slippery things on your shoes to like run.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Actually, you just reminded me of something. Do you reckon VR has a place in esports in the future?
I don't think that VR will exist just based on like the software not coming out for it. I think it's going to be like maybe 10 years it'll be revisited again, but
yeah. So we've talked about VR a lot on this podcast, and I do agree that it's still got quite a bit of way to go yet before we literally touch anything based on it.
Once they stop releasing tech demos and Skyrim on it, we'll be fine. I think.
yeah.
And Fallout 4 VR ports.
Well, I got the PSVR and I was like super high on it like the very first like 2 months, and I was like playing everything and loving it, and now it just sits in my closet like collecting dust.
Oh, mate, you are the first person that's actually ever had a PlayStation VR. What's it like? Because I was really thinking about actually trying it out.
Do you mean like just kind of experience? Because like I've actually tried all three.
It's a bit of experience, because I've tried like VR gaming for like 5 minutes, so I can't really tell you too much about VR gaming. But maybe with your more 2 months and then throwing it in the bin, well, not literally in the bin, but you get my point.
Yeah, it's hard to really explain. It's so hard. I'm trying to think exactly how I can word this. Like VR, you kind of have to experience it to really understand it, which is really hard for people to want to purchase it right off the bat there. But the easiest way I could say is that it changes. If you were to play like Grand Theft Auto, having that have everything scaled to your height is like an experience that words can't describe, because you feel your brain starts like acknowledging it as like reality within like a minute. So that's really there was something like they have like the Getaway for the PSVR that came on the demo disc, and that's still one of my like favorite experiences because there's like a fight that happens like right in front of you, and I remember like one guy like pulls out a knife, and like I instantly just kind of clenched up and just had that feeling of like I don't want to see someone get stabbed right now, and like that literally went through my head, and so that's where it's like different, and then the way that they had it coded too, like you're seeing like dust particles in the light. It's so strange, and it's so like I just wish there was more to it because it seems like it's tech demo-y at this point.
Yeah, that's how I feel that most VR games that like got shown at E3, for example, they all looked like tech demos.
I think
they didn't look like legitimate first-party or third-party games that could offer a good single-player experience. They just look like, look, you can ride on a roller coaster in your living room.
Yeah.
I think we made a good point in the last episode about VR's here, but the developers aren't yet, and that's the big issue with it.
No, and all that like kind of explorative money is kind of draining up too, as far as like the U.S. developers.
Anyway, should we move on to the second question of the roundtable in the Flashbang Gaming Podcast?
Let's go.
Do you feel that video games these days are not as fun as games during the last generation consoles? That means obviously the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and potentially the Wii as well. What do you think?
I say they're not as good right now.
I will agree that, I mean, I've got a PlayStation 4, you've got a PlayStation 4, but you also own an Xbox One as well.
I did at one point, yeah.
And then you sold it off.
Because I stopped enjoying it. Because there weren't enough games.
And I just feel that the content on the PlayStation 4, especially very recently, has been lacking so much to the point where I can just go days and just not worry about my PlayStation at all.
I booted it up twice this month.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I went online, I think it says like you haven't been active for like 14 days.
I haven't renewed my PlayStation Plus in like a month. No.
Yeah, but compared to the PlayStation 3 when I was on it every single day because there were so many good games that have come out, now it's gone the other way, really. It's not really the generation that we was all sort of hoping for. Jordan, what do you think of this?
Yeah, because I've owned all consoles. I guess
you said you got a Nintendo Switch, right?
Correct. Yes. That's kind of like my main thing I play now, but I've owned all consoles, and I can totally agree. Just looking back on like the 360, like that's like really fun to me because that was so many like new IPs and everything was kind of like popping at that time. Where like it's in this weird spot now, I guess, where it just feels like there's like a lot of sequels and the indie games as well. But I do enjoy the indie games, but I know that there's like not as big of an audience for that. I just feel like a lot of people are kind of just slowly trickling to PC, like, overall.
I will have to agree with you.
It's because Steam's library is so vast in what you can buy. Like, you can buy stuff from, like, the 90s onward, basically, on that thing. Well, like, there's such a range of games that you can pick up on Steam compared to what you can get on, the PlayStation 4.
I mean, take it this way, right? I mean, the Xbox One has got backwards compatibility for the Xbox 360, and I think also as well they've announced that they're going to bring backwards compatibility for the original Xbox as well, if you've heard.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
And the thing is that there is so many people crying out to put more games on the backwards compatibility list for the Xbox One that people just sort of more ignoring the new games now, just want to go and play their old games.
I think it's the nostalgia starting to hit home that games now, they're coming out more broken than they are finished.
I think the problem is as well is that the markets for a lot of these games, especially for the first-person shooter, futuristic games, is just way too oversaturated.
Yeah, and something I've noticed like amongst my friends as well is we tend to prefer like games as service more. So like Overwatch, where you know that like you purchase that, but like that's all you play for X amount of time. Or like with this instance, like I'm totally into ARMS, and like that's like the main thing that takes up most of my time now. where I know there's going to be that constant stream of updates. Like ARMS just added another fighter into their game, and like Overwatch continues, like every 3 months they're pumping out like a new character there as well. It seems like that's just where most of my friends are going. Another thing, a huge thing too, is like PUBG or like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Like, it just seems that is almost the direction where the Call of Duty method of being like, oh, like release a new one every year. Like maybe that's on its way out, and maybe you'll see, instead of having sequels.
Well, I was going to say that like 5 years ago, but it still hasn't happened yet. I hope it happens in another, well, ideally this year, but it's not going to happen.
Well, interesting Call of Duty and games like Call of Duty and FIFA, for example, that come out every year. Interest for those games is going down and down year by year, but they're still getting money off it. It's like, I think until sales take a really significant hit, that's when it's going to start coming to an end. Because like the newest Call of Duty, it still sold good, but that's only because it got bundled with a remaster of Call of Duty 4.
Yeah.
So again, it's hitting people's nostalgia factor, and they're going to want to play that instead of a new game.
The thing is, though, you made a point about how, like, obviously every few weeks or months, whatever, they're pushing out update when they're adding new content to these games, and you feel that's like the future, isn't it, Jordan?
Yeah, I really do feel like that, and I guess like the way they can say it too is like if Nintendo is doing something similar, like, you know, it's a pretty like sound thing because they're very conservative as far as like what they do, especially with like network stuff. So,
I mean, the best example I can give of where you basically using that method to expand the life expectancy of these games is definitely Team Fortress 2. This game's been out for 10 years and it's still getting at least 60,000 people playing it every single day.
Yeah.
And they've just completely rebalanced the game recently as well.
So, yeah. This is basically, when it comes to having a game, especially a multiplayer game, you just gotta keep that support going and just constantly keep reviving the game and adding something fresh to it. Because again, a lot of these games, these corporations, when they make these games, say, right, we're gonna have a set number of DLCs and that's it, and then we just release the next bunch of DLCs when the next game gets released. I think that's the wrong way of doing it.
There's something that I just actually thought of right now too. Like, if you think about like League of Legends, Dota 2, Counter-Strike, and Overwatch, think of how many people that took out of who would normally purchase like games every year, because all those games have massive player bases. Like, that's got to be a huge percentage of actual players like worldwide, like not within the market anymore.
Well, I think like a game like League of Legends, it has like 11 million unique players every month.
Yeah.
And that's because they haven't made like League of Legends 1 through 6 yet. They're just on League of Legends. Like literally 2 days ago, they released a new champion into the game. And like it's obviously the way forward, because people aren't stopping playing League of Legends even though the game's been out for about this year will be 8 years it's been out. And it's still got a huge player base. Obviously not as big as it used to be because people have like defected over to different games, but
including
it's still
me.
A huge player base. Yes, including you. Yes.
Yes.
So I can definitely see your point there, Jordan, of how like just having one game and just continually updating and adding new stuff to it is definitely the way forward for game developers, because they're still gonna be able to make the money they do anyway.
Yeah, and I guess another point too is, or I guess something I should just say is I guess coming like off of like the launch of the PS4, like, because that was really huge. Like, I really liked the Injustice, or not Injustice, but Infamous that they had on there. But
yeah.
Over the course of like the next like few years, I just felt like I became like more jaded, and like I just didn't want to play stuff. Like, nothing was interesting me. Where on PC, it's still, things are getting pushed in a different direction, and I hate it because like all my friends like joke about me now because like I've never been a Nintendo person, but like when Zelda Breath of the Wild came out, like that almost like reinvigorated me, like 180 degrees like turn as far as being like, okay, that was one of the best games I've ever played. Like, it's totally gonna still be my game of the year. So I just don't like. I feel like I'm kind of in this like weird area where I'm just like mixed up, because I always thought like, oh, maybe this is the way that's going to be the direction the industry is going, And now I feel like the Switch is like this huge curveball, especially with being able to like just pick it up and just bring it wherever, especially if you have a child, because I can't play games on the TV, half of my day because I have Daniel Tiger or whatever stupid child show on.
I know that feeling, yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, the PC was always, or the PS4 was always the place where I played indies, and it's like now I want to play that on my Switch because I can bring that everywhere, and I like Call of Duty World War II interests me just because like that setting still interests me. But I was so like I don't care about modern shooters anymore. I am not a huge fan of Destiny. I really don't like that game, so I'm in this limbo.
Me neither.
We all share something in common.
I hate Destiny.
You could go on about it for days. How you just Destiny.
Yeah.
You and Destiny just doesn't go together.
I won't, because this episode will be about 6 hours if you get me off going about Destiny.
So anyway, let's get back on topic very quickly.
But again, saying that you've lost interest in like modern day shooters, like me and Joe yesterday, we started playing through like the original Serious Sam game. Like, that's a fun shooter. It came out in like 2000, and it's more fun than half the shooters that are getting released now because it's not a grindy game. It's just a game where you're just like, here's a gun and go shoot things, and it's fun.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that too, because there was a game, what's that called? Devil Daggers. Have you played that at all?
Oh my god, I love Devil Daggers.
Like
yes.
To me, like I would rather play that than almost every shooter that's coming out now.
Devil Daggers is flawless. I love that game.
But then again too, like Splatoon 2, which technically is a shooter, like just that dynamic of like, okay, this is something different. Like I'm in it, or like PlayerUnknown, like I'm in it for there too. Yeah, like PUBG, like I'm totally down for that. Because maybe I'm at the point now where
it's bringing something different to the table. It's not just copy pasted like Call of Duty is everything.
Well, here's the thing though about when it comes to games and DLC, because you make a point about this. The thing is about PCs that PCs, you can be a lot more free compared to consoles, isn't that right?
Yeah.
And I think because people really starting to see how the PC, because basically you can play any game on PC, pretty much. You're not limited at all. Like, basically, the Serious Sam games, that's like unthinkable. You can't just do you want to go and play Serious Sam for like 10 minutes? You can't do that on console. It's just not a thing. But on PC, you've got that wide variety of games that really appeals to a lot of people. And, you mentioned Devil Daggers and a bunch of other games as well. I think that's the direction it's going, to be honest.
Well, in another way too, like I feel like seeing like Witcher and kind of like where Japan is as far as development, like I think that Europe and Japan are kind of putting out a lot better things now. Like developers are popping up, and I feel like that's a strong point where I feel like on Xbox 360 era going back as well, like that was the time frame when I feel like American developers were just like killing it.
They were at their peak at that time.
Yeah, and now I'm just like, I could care less. But then at the same time, like, I played some stupid sheep card game that had some kind of like manga story.
Sheep card game.
Yeah, and like things like that I'm finding more interesting just because there's like this weird small team indie Japanese scene coming out. Or again too, like with a lot of European development that we never had exposure to that over here really, and like you're kind of seeing things pop up where I'm trying to think of Tumbleseed is like another one too. Like that game came out of nowhere, or Threes, all European developed, and it's just there's something going on there.
So you're suggesting that the US sort of more gaming market is basically no longer as good as it was, and now the European and obviously Japanese is sort of more taken over now.
Well, I'd say he's right, because did you see Bethesda this year? It's just re-releases everywhere.
And just, people just...
They're making me pay for they're trying to make me pay for mods again.
Yeah.
I don't want to do
that.
Well,
I mean, half of my country is full of idiots, so, I mean, that could also work in there as well.
That's true.
That's a very good point.
They've managed to sell you Skyrim 2 more times successfully, so...
Yeah.
anything's possible.
I just feel that they don't really have much of the confidence anymore, so it's like, right, we'll just give them what we've been giving them for the last 5 years, and that will shut them up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel almost like you're seeing that through a lot of American culture, because look at where we're at now with superhero movies. It's just rehash on rehash.
They've rebooted Spider-Man again.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, the thing is though, when you release a new game, you've got to think about a unique selling point. Where's the unique selling point in a lot of these games that are coming out for console at the moment? I don't see it. There's nothing that's made me go, wow, I really want to play it right now. In fact, I don't think I've been hyped for a PS4 game probably since when PS4 got released.
I haven't been hyped for a game on PS4 since they announced Bloodborne. Like, that
was a little bit ago.
That was a while ago.
I think that was like 2015, wasn't it?
Still one of my favourite games of all time. I play that to death.
Yeah, especially
I love it.
Especially the dialogue in it.
Oh, dude, the dialogue in Bloodborne is unlike anything. It's an experience. Oof. Yeah. But again, that ties back to the Japanese and the Europeans just doing it better than the Americans this time around. Because, like, 5 years ago, I didn't know who From Software was. Now they're, like, my favourite game developer. Like, I love From Software. I've now played all of the Dark Souls games to completion and Bloodborne. And they're now one of my favourite game devs because they make fun games. Which they're easy for someone to pick up and play, but they have a very good level of difficulty, which makes the game very challenging to beat, and I like that in a video game.
Yeah.
So they're checking all the boxes for me. I don't know about you guys.
No, I would agree. I guess I don't know how you guys are as gamers. Are you open to like indie games, or are you open to like different experiences?
We're very, very open to indie games. Although I think there's a little bit too many on PS4 right now.
Like today, I came home from I was at a friend's house and he showed me this indie game, but it just it was funded through Kickstarter, and he downloaded the Kickstarter demo. It's this game called Fight Night. It's like you play as a knight. His name's Fight Night. You just walk around and going through dungeons, punching things, and it's one of the most fun things I've played all year. It's fantastic. Like, even like for example, Sega, another Japanese company, they're getting some indie developers to make Sonic Mania. Like, they're getting ROM hackers who made Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles ROM hacks to come and make an actual Sonic game, which I think is really cool. So they're definitely taking steps showing, like, indie developers are here now, and they're going to start taking over if the big companies aren't careful. Because really, the only American... I don't even know if they're American. The only game dev who are really doing it right at the moment is Naughty Dog.
I think you made a good point there.
Because, like, Naughty Dog, yeah, they re-released Crash Bandicoot recently, but they made changes to the game to make it feel fresh.
Yeah, I mean, like, going with as far as like American developers or publishers, like Naughty Dog is good. I guess I would still give it to Rockstar, and I want to say Valve, but they don't put out games anymore, so.
No, they sell other people's games to make money. Why? They don't need to make games anymore. They're set. Gabe Newell can sit and get fatter and fatter. He doesn't need to make games anymore.
Yeah. No, I really do wish Valve did make another game. I mean, I think if they were to make another one, it would probably be like another Counter-Strike game. That's what I see, to be honest. That's what's making them the most money.
Because people have given up with Half-Life 3. That's not happening. Left 4 Dead 3 is probably not going to happen, even though there was a rumour going around sometime last year that, oh my god, they're making Left 4 Dead 3. They're not.
Yeah, don't buy into it unless I still...
Portal 3 is not going to happen because Portal 2 finished the story of Portal anyway. And the only... Dota 2 is not going to get a sequel because they don't need to. They're making enough money selling people fucking...
Well, it's gonna be Dota just 2, like League of Legends. They make one and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... the only realistic game I could see Valve making if they were to go make a game is CSGO, because all of like Valve's writers have left the company because they know that they're not going to make story-driven games anymore. Like, they've lost all of the original Half-Life writers, so that really writes Half-Life 3 off the wall. So Valve aren't going to be making games anymore.
I guess now that I think about it too, to answer your question.
We still got to answer the question. It's been 40 minutes, haven't done it yet.
Last generation, the AAA games are better. this generation, the indie games are better. So they've kind of swapped, because I wasn't that high in a lot of like 360 indie games.
Jonah, I think we can leave it there for the moment. Everyone, do you want to say one more thing?
I was just going to say that another company that I think that are doing everything right is my favorite company, Devolver Digital. They do everything right.
Oh yeah, I love Devolver as well.
They are brilliant.
Ruiner, cannot wait.
Ruiner looks so good. Don't get me started on Ruiner.
We'll leave it at that. Should we get into the final question of this episode? Because I think we're already at 44 minutes actually. So I think leading on quite nicely, how many console generations do you think we have left? Do you reckon we may only have one left, or is it going to just keep going for decades to go?
To me, it seems like they're almost going the way that phones are going, or phones have been. Where to me, it seems like you're gonna have like probably like every 2-3 years just have like a refresh, but that was before E3, I guess. Before like Scorpio just ended up being the Xbox One X or whatever horrible name that is.
It's such a bad name. It's literally
call it the Xbox One Scorpio, and then leave it at that.
That's such a rad name. Like Xbox One X is literally just like an anagram for Xbox. It's ridiculous.
See, like in my if I'm trying to like read the tea leaves to kind of like see like maybe where it could go, as far as like with the Xbox brand, I could see that almost becoming like on PC only, or you'd buy like some kind of like almost like a Steam box, but it would have like Windows on it. Some of the higher ups at Microsoft have like for the last couple of years have basically said like we don't want to do Xbox anymore. Like it's just been like that thing where they make so much money everywhere else that like even if they do make money on the Xbox brand, like is it worth it for like risk and development and things like that? I think if like the Xbox One X fails, like that's gonna be a weird spot where will they even attempt it, or are they just gonna get pressured from higher ups at that point?
Yeah, because like they make enough money with Windows at this point. They could literally drop Xbox after this.
Yeah,
to be honest.
But
the thing is as well, we're seeing the trend of like the games you can play on Xbox One, you can play on Windows.
Yeah, that's another thing too. That kind of like guts all the exclusives out there.
There are no Xbox One exclusives. They are Xbox One and PC games. They are not exclusive. They're lying.
Yeah.
Like they're not exclusives if they're on Windows 10 as well.
I think also as well having like half generation consoles as well sort of ruins a little bit of that old console feel where you get a new console and you're set for like 5 years minimum. Yeah. And then you go out and get the next console. Now we're seeing new consoles being released every 2 years. Yeah, go on, Jordan.
I would actually agree completely on that. Like, I would have preferred that it would just sort of kind of held out. Or I guess I'm all right with the PS4 Pro just because that was like a minor step up just to kind of get up to 4K. But the Xbox One X is so powerful. Like, why wouldn't you just have it as a new console and just like kind of start fresh? And I mean... See, even though
they're trying to push 4K gaming, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's like like Xbox One X. Even though I don't like Destiny, it could run Destiny 2 perfect, but you're stuck putting it at 30 frames, not running at 60 frames because. Well,
actually, you mentioned that, but I think Microsoft have actually stated in the past a few weeks ago, not after E3, but during E3 and afterwards as well, that it doesn't matter. The Xbox One X is, I hate saying that name, I'm just going to call it Scorpio. The Scorpio is not gonna be held back by a 2013 console, so it's going to be able to run at any FPS they want. So basically 60 FPS is on the table.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, because like you can't put like because I'd imagine it's still you're going to be able to play with Destiny players on Xbox One to Xbox One X. And if like you were to give someone like that frame advantage, like that is, for at least on the competitive side, like that's insane.
Well,
that's really not fair, honestly.
No. The thing is though, if you're talking like about a first-person shooter, 30 FPS, 60 FPS makes a big difference because actually the FPS can also determine the rate in which your gun fires in the first place. So if you're playing at 60 FPS, your gun will be able to fire significantly quicker then obviously if you're running at 30 FPS, so that again is just going to be very, very unfair to a lot of people.
Exactly. You can't just give someone a frame advantage in the game. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm gonna bring this up, but like the developers of PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, they want, when it comes out on Xbox One and Xbox One X, they want to have cross-platform. They want to bring in cross-platform multiplayer to the PC players so they can play the Xbox players. That's not going to be fair, because there are people who've got PCs where they can run that game at 120 FPS compared to like an Xbox One 12-year-old who's playing his game at 30 frames. He's like, why can't I win at this game? And it's like, because there's a guy who's got like an 80 frame advantage on you.
Yeah, he's got some G-Sync monitor and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. That's why a lot of people, when you play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, you have to, people, if you can't get 60 FPS, they will just purposely play at very low settings, because that's so important.
Yeah.
But
like people have been saying like, oh, you don't need good frames for that game. It's like you just play hide and seek the entire time. It's like, what if you're in a shootout? Like, come on.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to change the video settings halfway through a gunfight.
Like, resolution has never mattered to me, but like the frames per second has.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't really fancy getting into that debate on resolution versus FPS, because we've all been there before. So.
And we will be there for a while if we go into it again.
Yeah. But I think back to the question, though, because again, we're just going off topic again, I feel. How many console generations do we have left?
Well, with this Xbox One X release, it sounds like they could have kept this thing cooking for like at least a couple more years, and it would have completely blown PlayStation out the water, because they're billing it as the most powerful console ever.
Especially for a bargain of like $500.
But I think once we actually hit the 9th generation consoles, if there's not a big step up to compete with PC, then it could be the last, because people could just get fed up and just move on.
Well, I do feel that the difference between the leap from the PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4 wasn't actually that great, because I remember watching YouTubers when they got the PS4 early and it just came out. They were saying, oh yeah, but remember what games looked like at the beginning of the last generation console, and then obviously right at the end there was a huge difference. Well, obviously we're going to see the same thing for this generation, but we haven't. In fact, we're still seeing games not even being hitting 1080p. And I know I'm going back into the whole debate on resolution, but it just really shows.
It's 2017. Come on.
Like.
So to me, like I would have said like consoles would have maybe like one generation left, but I guess also going back to the Switch, I feel like to me the next logical step would to be follow up what the Switch did, because I can just think of like PS5 having that similar concept, and you know, if you gave it however many years, like say that's gonna be like 2-3 years, or you're looking at like 2020 before the next thing, like I'd flip every table, like if they came in, they're just like, here is all our PlayStation exclusives, everything like that, but it's just like within the Switch style of handheld, docket, things like that. I just kind of feel like that is where the console industry could probably go for a few years.
Yeah.
The thing is, though,
I also think that maybe I was kind of thinking that the next possible Xbox and obviously PlayStation 5, I was thinking, what if they just were like, screw it, let's just make these things streaming boxes and have everyone stream our games now.
No, that's not going to work.
And make people use PlayStation Now.
That's not going to work.
Yeah,
I would not buy a console for that.
Like as far as like the internet infrastructure throughout the United States, it's horrible here.
Oh yeah, I won't get started on that debate. We'll be here all night. But yeah, I mean, Jordan, you're the only one I know really that actually has a Nintendo Switch. Do you feel that that's actually what a real next-gen console should be, like that big step up, and it's just something completely different?
I really do, because I mean, if you think about like Nintendo put out the Switch, and like they always try and be like profitable as far as like console sales and everything like that. But they also put it at a time when, like, it was in between the Tegra processors.
Someone's phone's going off.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that. But they're in between, like, the Tegra processors, where, like, if they just would have waited till the most recent one, then everything would have been probably, like, you know, up to the standards of PS4. Because, like, right now, there's some games that if I think it was, like, Ars Technica or Digital Foundry, like, one of them went through, and there's some, like, Switch games that look better than the Xbox One games.
Oh my god.
So it's like they're there, and like that's one thing I hated too, because there's so many people that like kind of looked at it and was like, oh well, this is nothing close to the consoles, but realistically it's kind of just a little bit under Xbox One's power. So if Sony were to come out and have something like this, like, because there's like the Vita was a failure, but like it was also like it has its like niche audience that is like huge, where if they could just come out with like that Vita PlayStation hybrid, like I honestly wanted to make like a bold prediction that they're just gonna come out with like their version of the Switch with the PS4, because they could.
It wouldn't surprise me.
They could pack, you know, that down into a size like that, but I'm just like, I can't even think of. I would probably like start crying if it's like, oh, here's PS4 library at your fingertips or docked if you want it.
That would be pretty. I could definitely see Sony doing it.
Yeah,
Because they will probably see because the Switch, for all its flaws at launch, it still made a lot of damn money. So Sony seeing that, I could definitely see them doing something.
well, I mean, what's it been like? Probably.
I hope they do, to be honest.
It's like
But they probably won't.
it's like 4 months since launch here, and like it's still like you'll see things go up. It's like, oh, like the Switch is sold out within like 8 minutes or something like that. Like it's impossible to get.
Yeah,
in
like
here.
I wanted to check how much they were on Amazon yesterday, and it was like, yo, they're sold out, and I was like, oh, still? Like,
Yeah, and that's like another thing too, because like again, I wasn't a Nintendo person before, but like with the guys within my podcast, like they kind of were, you know, kind of not really with the idea of the Switch at first, and then now it's like I think the last words that kind of like came out were like, oh, we're expecting to sell through the same amount that the Wii U sold, but lifetime within its first year.
In its first year,
Oh.
that's definitely a step up improvement.
So it's like I didn't think that was going to be like Wii numbers, but like I'm starting to think like maybe this is kind of like
imagine
Wii
if
numbers.
it was Wii numbers. Oh, they sold like what over 100 million consoles, didn't they, for the Wii?
that's how they made Wii Sports the most sold video game in history.
And like I was not like a Wii fan, but like coming back to like having the Pro controller or even like the Joy-Cons, like they feel good. Like this actually feels like a real console as opposed to what the Wii was, and like the Wii U will kind of have like a place in my heart always, alongside like the Dreamcast. But I wasn't a big fan of that either, though.
Oh man, the Dreamcast was very ahead of its time, for its time, to be honest.
Like everything that they put out on the Dreamcast is like gold in my eyes.
Oh, dude, the only thing I enjoyed on the Dreamcast really, because it was all I played really, was Crazy Taxi. Because
that game is so good.
Crazy Taxi.
I
that was
love
my
Crazy Taxi.
Crazy Taxi. Actually, I really want to go and play that now, to be honest. Anyone up for a game afterwards, after this podcast? Yeah. I think we should start wrapping this up now. So, final thoughts on this question before I think we sign off, because we're now at about 57 minutes.
I think for consoles to survive, I think they need to kind of do what Jordan said. Maybe try and follow the Switch route and give us all like game libraries at our fingertips, and I think they would sell a lot more.
I think they should take
especially
especially
if they made it so you could also like emulate PlayStation and PlayStation 2. That would be a huge selling point, because then people could be like, oh my god, I could go back and play Ratchet and Clank, for example.
Yes. they need to take the strengths of the PS4 and then take something from, obviously not steal the idea from a Nintendo Switch, but do something obviously as you suggested, and then obviously put it together and make it all work. I reckon that could be a big leap up, and actually they will sell really well for the PlayStation 5, but who knows.
I think that's a good point to start wrapping this up. That was good.
Yeah. Okay, so that has been the 6th episode of the Flashbang Gaming Podcast. My name is Joe.
I've been Edward, and we've been joined, obviously, by Jordan, who I think... Did you have a good time?
I had a good time, and thank you guys so much for having me on here. Like, we're looking...
Absolute pleasure.
We're looking at infrastructure to see, like, if we can get you on ours, and, like, so far we're saying all signs point to yes, but we just have to test it out a little bit.
So you could be seeing us, maybe, hopefully, on one of their episodes of the Have At You podcast.
Correct, yes.
On the other side. Where can they find your podcast?
We're on Apple. We're pretty much on everything at this point except for Spotify. Like, that's still something that's trying to get on there.
Spotify.
And then also, we started our YouTube channel, and we haven't met the requirements to actually name it yet. So I had to buy some burner URL. So droprate.life.
Oh, I see.
All right.
That sounds good.
And can they follow you on Twitter anywhere?
Yeah, they can follow me at I Dislike Jordan.
Okay, you can follow me at Ed McDougal99, and you can follow Joe where?
At Joe_LGC.
This has been the 6th episode of the Flashbang Gaming Podcast. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.